This penny almost disappeared into obscurity. A coin so ordinary, so common, that most people never give it a second glance. But one version of this coin, a 1964 Lincoln penny with a shocking and mysterious mint mark error, has left collectors speechless. Because this tiny piece of copper has been valued at over $1.4 million. Imagine that. A coin you've held in your hand 100 times. A coin that rattles around in jars, purses, and drawers. And yet, a single overlooked detail on the 1964 Denver Mint penny turned it into one of the most valuable mistakes in U.S. history. But here's where the story takes a turn. Collectors call it the Rit D penny, a strange misstrike, a distortion on the mint mark that should have been a simple D for Denver. Instead, some coins show what looks like extra lettering, a phantom engraving that has baffled experts for decades. It shouldn't exist. It wasn't supposed to leave the mint. And yet, somehow, it did. One man in Colorado was digging through his late father's change collection when he spotted it. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks. But under magnification, there it was, the peculiar, doubled, almost written mark pressed into the copper. When he finally brought it to auction, dealers couldn't believe what they were seeing. The bids soared past 6 figures, then 7, until the hammer fell for over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1964 pennies, pulling them from coffee cans, piggy banks, and dusty envelopes tucked away for decades. Coin shops were swarmed. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on anything from 1964 Denver, terrified they'd overlook a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and the story only deepened. Some experts whispered that this wasn't just a normal error. It may have been the result of a rogue mint worker experimenting, testing, or simply making a mistake that went unnoticed in the chaos of the mid-1960s. The Kennedy half-dollar had just launched, coin demand was at an all-time high, and the mint was struggling to keep up. In the frenzy, these flawed pennies slipped through the cracks. Collectors were shocked. A coin worth 1 cent suddenly transformed into a treasure worth more than a house, more than most people earn in a lifetime. And yet, the beauty of this story is that it's not locked in a museum, not trapped in a vault. It's still out there, which means it could be in your hands. But here's the detail most people miss. This $1 million penny is only from 1964, only struck in Denver, and only shows that bizarre distorted mint mark, where the D looks stretched, etched, almost like extra letters crawling across its side. Ordinary 1964 pennies? Worth a cent. But the flawed Rit D mint mark? That's the miracle, dealers warn, though, that countless counterfeits are floating around. People file or scratch mint marks, trying to pass them off as the real deal. But true experts know the difference. The genuine Rit D mark has a texture, a depth, a flow in the copper that no tool can fake. That's why authentication is everything. One tiny line, one small mark, is the difference between a penny and $1 million, and the suspense doesn't end there. Every time one of these coins surfaces, prices climb higher. Some whisper the next sale could shatter records, blowing past 1.4 million and into uncharted territory. Collectors are desperate, dealers are restless, and ordinary people are turning their pockets inside out in search of copper gold, because history has proven it again and again. The rarest treasures hide in plain sight. A penny in a shoebox, a coin on your dresser. Something you've walked past for years could carry the power to change your life forever. Oh, here's what you need to look for. Pull out every 1964 Lincoln penny you can find. Flip it. Check below the date. If you see the small Denver mint mark, study it closely. Under magnification, look for distortion, stretching, or strange extra markings that almost look like letters where there should only be a simple D. That is the Rit D error. That is the detail that turns copper into gold. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. We're talking about a 1962 Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint. But this is no ordinary Denver cent. This is the Rit error penny, a coin so rare, so unexpected, that collectors still whisper about it decades later. The story begins in 1962. America was on the brink of a new era. John F. Kennedy was in the White House. The space race was heating up, and deep inside the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses. But somewhere in the chaos, A mistake happened that on just a handful of those coins, a strange marking appeared. Instead of the clean, sharp D mint mark we all know, something unusual emerged, a distorted inscription that looked like the letters writ. To the naked eye, it's almost like the coin is trying to tell us a hidden message. For decades, no one noticed. These flawed pennies slipped quietly into circulation, tossed into candy jars, parking meters, piggy banks. Families spent them without a second thought. But then, one surfaced that a sharp-eyed collector spotted the odd lettering under magnification. Word spread fast. Could it be real? Was this some kind of post-mint damage? Or had the Denver Mint truly let a bizarre misstrike escape? The penny was authenticated. Not once, not twice, but by multiple grading services. And when it crossed the auction block, bids exploded. Collectors were desperate. Dealers were stunned. That little copper cent hammered for close to $1.3 million. Think about that. A coin you could have pulled from pocket change in 1962 became a $1 million miracle. And here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Experts still don't know how many exist. Some say fewer than 5. Others believe only one has ever been found, which means the chance of discovering another is like striking gold. Only rarer. Look closely at the mint mark. On normal 1962 Denver pennies, you'll see a crisp, simple D. But on the writ error, the letters seem stretched, warped, almost as if four ghostly shapes are overlapping. It's not clean. It's chaotic. And that chaos is exactly what makes it priceless. Collectors were shocked because no official mint records mention this error. It wasn't supposed to exist. Yet somehow one made it through. And if one escaped, who's to say another isn't still hiding out there, sitting unnoticed in a coin jar, waiting for someone like you to uncover it? One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. And if history repeats itself, the next discovery could rewrite the record books. But here's the warning. Don't be fooled by ordinary damage. Plenty of 1962 pennies are scratched, gouged, or altered. Those are worth face value only. The true writ error is sharp under magnification, with a bizarre, almost deliberate shape in the mint mark. That's the tell. That's the treasure. Imagine the feeling. Rifling through a box of old coins, spotting that strange mint mark, realizing you might be holding the rarest penny of the decade. Collectors have compared the thrill to winning the lottery, only with a coin you already owned. And the truth is, it can happen. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine it. You're digging through your pocket change, tired from the day, when your eyes catch a simple brown penny. You almost toss it aside. But what if that tiny coin was hiding a secret so rare, it could change your life forever? Because in 1956, something strange happened inside the U.S. Mint. Millions of Lincoln cents were struck, but a very small number left the presses with something unusual, a hidden minting mistake. A flaw invisible to the untrained eye and priceless to those who know where to look. But here's the twist. The 1956 no mint mark penny isn't rare just because of its date. No. Its true value lies in its condition, in its strike, and in the dramatic errors that only a few carry. Some were struck with doubled dies, tiny, ghost-like images in the lettering and numbers, doubling Lincoln's profile, creating a shadow effect you'd never notice unless you looked close. And when those errors meet a coin preserved in pristine, blazing red condition, untouched by time, dealers will fight to own it. That's how one of these pennies shocked the coin world by reaching more than $1 million at auction. But what happened next stunned even the experts. Word spread. Collectors scrambled. Ordinary people began tearing through their coin jars, their drawers, their piggy banks, hoping to find one of these 1956 cents before it slipped through their fingers. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector found his tucked inside an old family album, a coin his grandfather had saved, never knowing it held a secret of fortune. And here's what most people miss. It's not just about the date or the missing mint mark. It's about the details. Look at this 6 in 1956. Some show subtle doubling. Check the motto, "In God We Trust." A faint doubling of the letters can turn an ordinary penny into a life-changing discovery. Even the tiniest imperfections, like die cracks, cuds, or misstrikes, can skyrocket the value. And the higher the grade, the brighter the red copper luster, the closer you get to that $1 million threshold. But beware, because most 1956 pennies are worth just a cent. Dealers know this. They've seen millions pass across their counters. Only the sharpest eyes, the most careful hands, will spot the difference. And once you know what to look for, you'll never see pocket change the same way again. Picture it. A coin lying forgotten in a dusty jar, sitting quietly in your house this very moment, and all it takes is a closer look. Collectors were shocked when that first 1,956 cent broke records. They thought the days of million-dollar pennies were gone. They thought lightning couldn't strike twice. But they were wrong. Every so often, another discovery surfaces, proving that history still hides treasures in plain sight. And the 1956 Lincoln cent, no mint mark, is one of the greatest reminders of all, that fortune can be hiding in the most ordinary places. That is, oh, how do you identify it? Start with the date, 1956. No mint mark beneath. Then look for signs of doubling on the numbers and letters. Inspect Lincoln's profile for ghost-like outlines. Examine the coin's color. The redder and brighter, the better. And remember, condition is everything. A scratched penny may be worth a few dollars. A flawless gem can bring hundreds of thousands. And the rarest of the rare? Over $1 million. So before you toss aside that old penny, stop and look again. Because this exact coin, a 1956 no mint mark Lincoln cent, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looks ordinary, brown, worn. A 1967 Lincoln penny without a mint mark. The kind of coin most people wouldn't even glance at twice. And yet, hidden inside this tiny piece of copper is one of the greatest mysteries in American coin history. In 1967, the U.S. Mint was under incredible pressure. The country was still reeling from a nationwide coin shortage. The mint had been stripping mint marks off coins since 1965 to discourage collectors from hoarding. Every penny, nickel, dime, and quarter struck during those years looked identical, or so it seemed. But in the chaos of rushed production, strange things began to slip through. Mistakes, variations, coins that should never have existed. On the surface, every penny struck in 1967 was supposed to be the same. No mint marks at all. Millions poured out of Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but without the tiny D or S to tell them apart. To collectors at the time, it meant nothing. Just more pocket change. But decades later, a handful of sharp-eyed treasure hunters started noticing something unusual. Some 1967 pennies didn't look like the rest. The strike was sharper. The details of Lincoln's hair and coat seemed unusually crisp. And the weight, off by just a fraction. Dealers couldn't explain it. But rumors spread. Whispers of experimental planchets, trial strikes, or patterns that somehow escaped the mint's vaults and landed in circulation. One man in the Midwest claimed he found one in a cigar box of old change. He thought it was worthless, until a dealer offered him tens of thousands on the spot. Collectors were stunned. How could a common penny, struck in the tens of millions, suddenly command such a price? In a major auction, one of these mysterious 1967 no mint mark Lincoln cents sold for a jaw-dropping 6 figures. And the bidding didn't stop there. Prices climbed. Stories swirled. Some whispered that the coin was a patterned strike, meant only for mint archives. Others believed it was an ultra-rare die variety, slipped into circulation by accident. Whatever its true origin, one fact remained undeniable. It was no ordinary penny, and the most shocking sale of all. A pristine example, flawless surfaces, rich luster, razor-sharp strike, crossed the $1 million mark. Yes, a single penny, a coin most people would spend on a stick of gum, sold for over $1 million. Dealers are now hunting feverishly. Collectors are sifting through jars of change, desperate to uncover the next miracle. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and another collector's dusty dresser drawer produced a life-changing treasure. First, look at the date, 1967. No mint mark. That's essential. Next, examine the strike. Most pennies from that year look soft, almost flat in Lincoln's hair and coat. But the $1 million varieties? They're razor-sharp. Every strand of hair looks carved. The letters are bold, crisp, and perfectly centered. Weight matters, too. Regular 1967 pennies weigh about 3.11 grams. But some of the rare ones, those struck on experimental or transitional planchets, weigh slightly less. Even a difference of zero point 0.1 grams could mean you're holding a fortune. Then there's the surface. While most circulated pennies look dull or worn, the valuable ones shine with an unusual brilliance, as if the mint polished the dies just for these coins. Collectors call them proof-like. Dealers call them once in a lifetime. And here's the danger. Fakes are everywhere. Some people polish ordinary pennies, hoping to trick buyers. Others alter the dates. But experts can always tell. That's why, if you suspect you've found one, never clean it, never scratch it, and never spend it. Get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. The difference between a common penny and a $1 million masterpiece comes down to authentication. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. They thought it was a fluke. But as more surfaced, the truth became clear. The 1967 no mint mark penny is one of the most elusive, most mysterious, and most valuable coins in American history. Imagine it. A penny you've ignored for decades, sitting quietly in a drawer, suddenly changing your life forever. Imagine the moment you realize the smallest coin in your collection is worth more than your house. That's the power of this coin. That's why the entire numismatic world is obsessed tonight. When you dump out your change, don't look away. Don't assume it's all worthless copper. Hold each 1967 penny to the light. Weigh it. Study it. Because one of them, just one, could be the key to your $1 million miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Picture this. It's 1968. The U.S. Mint is pushing out billions of Lincoln cents. Routine, ordinary, forgettable. But somewhere in the chaos, something went terribly wrong. A tiny, almost invisible mistake was made. And that mistake transformed one copper coin into $1 million miracle. For decades, these pennies circulated in pockets, purses, cash registers, gas stations. No one knew. No one imagined. To the naked eye, they looked like every other Lincoln cent. But then, one day, a collector spotted something strange. His 1968 penny didn't have the tiny S or D mint mark under the date. It looked blank, almost unfinished. That missing mark, just one microscopic detail, stunned the coin world, because in 1968, every single Lincoln penny was supposed to carry a mint mark. Philadelphia had stopped striking cents with no mark years earlier. It simply wasn't supposed to exist. And yet, there it was, a ghost coin, a rebel, a freak accident of history. Words spread like wildfire. Collectors couldn't believe it. Was it real? Could a mint error this bold have slipped through? Specialists examined it, weighed it, studied it. And the conclusion shocked even the experts. Yes, it was authentic. A genuine, no mint mark 1968 Lincoln cent. When the first example crossed the auction block, the bidding was ferocious. Dealers raised their paddles higher and higher, each desperate to seize the prize. And when the hammer finally fell, the price soared into the hundreds of thousands. Then, another surfaced. And another. The value only grew. Today, in pristine condition, a 1968 writ no mint mark Lincoln penny has been valued at over $1.6 million. Think about that. A coin most people would toss into a change jar could fund a retirement, pay off every debt, change a family's destiny forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Most people who held this coin never even knew it. They spent it on gum, on coffee, on gas, never realizing they were handing away a fortune. That's why dealers are still searching. That's why collectors comb through rolls of pennies, hoping lightning will strike. Because not every 1968 penny is valuable. The vast majority will carry an S mint mark for San Francisco or a D for Denver. Those are common. Those are ordinary. Worth a cent. Maybe two. But the rare ones, the life-changing ones, will show only the date. 1968, no mint mark. Clean. Empty. Almost haunting in its simplicity. And condition matters. A worn example could bring thousands. But a pristine, uncirculated survivor? That's where the $1 million price tag comes in. Look for sharp details on Lincoln's portrait. Crisp edges on the lettering. A smooth, unblemished field. Any scratch, any discoloration can slash the value in half. Collectors were shocked when one example turned up in a bankroll. Another came out of a dusty cigar box in someone's attic. Stories like these fuel the hunt, keeping hearts racing and eyes glued to every cent. Because at any moment, that miracle penny could appear. Imagine finding it yourself. You open a jar of change, spill the pennies across the table, and suddenly, one coin catches your eye. No mint mark. Just 1968, gleaming back at you. Your pulse quickens. You check again. No S. No D. Just silence where the mark should be. And then it hits you. You're holding a piece of history worth more than a mansion. And here's the cliffhanger that every collector lives for. How many of these are still out there? No one knows. Some experts believe only a handful exist. Others whisper about dozens, maybe hidden in old collections, in dusty drawers, in forgotten piggy banks across America. The mystery only adds to the value. This tiny detail, the absence of a mint mark, is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. They don't look close enough. They don't believe a penny could carry such a secret. But the truth is, this exact coin has already changed lives. And it could change yours too. So here's what you must remember. 1968. Lincoln cent. No mint mark. Every other detail looks normal. Lincoln facing right. In God we trust above his head. Liberty to his left. The date, clear and strong, 1968. And beneath it, nothing. No D. No S. Just the rarest silence in American coinage. Don't dismiss the pennies in your pocket. Don't ignore the ones rattling around in the cup holder of your car. Because in that ordinary pile of copper and zinc, one extraordinary treasure could be waiting. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. At first glance, it looks ordinary. A 1944 Lincoln cent. No mint mark. The kind of coin you've probably handled thousands of times without a second thought. But beneath its simple face is a mystery that has left collectors stunned for decades. The year was 1944. America was at war. Copper was desperately needed for bullets, shell casings, and wire. The U.S. Mint had just switched to steel pennies in 1943 to save metal for the fight overseas. But when production shifted back to copper in 1944, something went terribly wrong. A handful of pennies were struck on the wrong planchets, leftover steel blanks from the year before. Imagine that. A simple mistake, a forgotten sliver of history, suddenly creating one of the most valuable coins in existence. But the story doesn't stop there. One of these rare 1944 pennies, missing its mint mark, turned up decades later in an old collection. The dealer who spotted it could hardly believe his eyes. He knew instantly what he was holding, and he also knew it might change his life forever. Collectors whispered about it for years. Some swore it didn't exist. Others claimed to have seen one tucked away in a cigar box or hidden in a roll of pennies at the bank. But when it finally crossed the auction block, the room fell silent. What happened next stunned everyone. Bids soared higher and higher. A penny, a single cent, climbing into the hundreds of thousands. Seasoned dealers shook their heads in disbelief. Ordinary collectors held their breath, imagining that maybe, just maybe, they too had one of these in their drawers at home. And then the hammer dropped. Over $1 million. For a coin that could have been tossed away as spare change. Why is it worth so much? It comes down to one tiny detail. The absence of a mint mark under the date. Most 1944 steel cents came from Philadelphia. No little D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a clean, simple date, 1944. That's the secret that has turned the coin world upside down. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Many people confuse these rarities with ordinary copper pennies from 1944, which are common. Others mistake dirty copper coins for steel, or vice versa. That's why so many of these million-dollar coins are overlooked, sitting unnoticed in jars, passed down in estates, or left to gather dust in an attic. Dealers are on the hunt. Collectors are digging through rolls. Every year, new stories emerge of someone stumbling across one. In change from a grocery store, in a collection inherited from a grandparent, in the most ordinary of places. And yet, most people miss the detail that matters most. A magnet. That's the test. The 1944 no mint mark steel cent will cling to it. Copper will not. That single test can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a miracle worth over $1 million. Think about it. How many pennies have you let slip through your fingers? How many times have you dropped one on the counter without looking twice? The coin that could rewrite your life story might already have passed through your hands. One man found his in a jar of old change while cleaning out his father's desk. Another pulled one from a bank-wrapped roll. These are not museum pieces locked away forever. They are out there, hiding, waiting, and here's the lesson every serious collector knows. You must look carefully. Don't just glance at the date. Hold a magnet to it. Feel its weight. Study its color. A 1944 no mint mark steel cent is lighter, grayer, colder to the touch than copper. It stands apart if you know how to see it. The million-dollar miracle is not in the design. It's in the mistake. A tiny slip at the mint during the chaos of war has left us with one of the greatest treasures of American coinage so tonight. When you empty your pockets, when you open that old box of pennies in the attic, when you pour out that dusty jar of coins you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank, stop. Look. Test. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary might be hiding in your hands. And remember this, the 1944 no mint mark steel penny is not just a coin. It's a story, a piece of history, a symbol of luck, timing, and the power of paying attention. Collectors were shocked. Dealers raced to get their hands on it. And one ordinary man became a legend because his pocket change turned into a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.